Okay, so we're going to continue. We're going to talk about rearranging, sorting, matching, merging, reshaping our data now within R. We're going to work again with the CO2 data frame within R. So we'll go ahead and attach it, even though you know I do not usually approve of attaching your data in R. But we're going to do that because we'll just be working with this data for this session. Let's go ahead and, after you've attached CO2, go ahead and run the command order uptake. Now, again, just to review from last time, we can just refer directly to the variable or vector uptake because now we've attached CO2. If we do that, we're going to get a vector of positions, okay? So order will not sort the data in the way you may be anticipating. There's actually a function called sort that will do that on single vectors. But what order does is it will give you positions. So one will be the lowest number, 2 will be the second lowest, on up to the highest number. And in order to see the sorted data, we'd have to run uptake with the order command or order function operated on uptake within square brackets. So this would be equivalent to just sort uptake. I like to emphasize, though, that using that vector of positions is a stronger way for doing it. And in fact, sort is just a wrapper function for this thing, okay? So this is a stronger way for going about it because we can do more flexible things. I hardly use sort anymore. I used to use it a lot, but then I realized the drawback of sort is we can't do things like the following. So say we want to sort the entire data frame CO2 by uptake. Then we would need to use that order function again on uptake, but then we can put that in notice that this is in the row position. So 1 will take all observations that have a 1 assigned to uptake, meaning it's the smallest uptake, and it'll pull out that particular row from CO2. Then it'll do the same thing for the second position, and so on. So that what we get from this command is the entire data frame CO2 sorted by uptake. And so this is a lot better than directly using this wrapper function for sort, because you get these more general results, such as a fully sorted data frame according to a subset of variables. So we can do other things, such as we can sort ascending or descending. I like to use the decreasing equal true, so this will just give you that vector in opposite order. So we get the highest value of uptake down to the lowest, and the whole data frame sorted in that way. And then we can sort CO2 by concentration and then uptake. So if we need uptake sorted within the concentration. So first we get the lowest value of concentration and all those uptakes associated with that lowest value then sorted hierarchically. And then the second lowest value of concentration with all values of uptake hierarchically sorted following that, and so on. And again, we can sort the entire data frame CO2 using this kind of arrangement. We can do really fancy things like sort by concentration in ascending order and uptake in descending order. So notice what we had to do to make the descending order apply. You just put in the negative, and then -1 is your highest value down to whatever -n is here would be your lowest value. So kind of a tricky way to use that vectorized operator, the minus sign. Finally, we can sort by plant. So plant is categorical, right? It's plant names if you look in the data frame, CO2. But we can use that as an ordered factor variable and sort the entire data frame using that. So again, we could sort CO2 by plant, this time descending, as you can see here, and then uptake ascending. And rank function here is useful for just converting to a numeric vector so we can apply that negative operator out in front. So try those out. Make sure you understand the results of each one. Notice this does get a little tricky, but again, staying away from sort is going to serve you well as you go on and program in R. So I really emphasize this approach, even though it's a bit trickier to start out than going straight to a wrapper function like sort. Okay, so the function unique, I used to never use this, but now I use it quite often. It's going to give you, it's going to return a data frame where your duplicate rows or columns are going to be removed. So this is very useful when you're really just trying to pull out specific values that have from say a factor or even a numeric count variable, and you just want to know how many levels there are to it. So the unique function would be useful in that case. Duplicated is similar in that it's going to return a true-false logic vector that indicates which rows are going to be duplicates. Okay, we'll try this out on our example CSV file in just a moment. So for both unique and duplicated, this is only going to work for imported data frames and doesn't work for data frames that you create during an R session. The reason behind that has to do with how the functions are actually written, and we're not going to get really far into that right now because we need to understand some other concepts first. But this is a something just to be aware of right now. So let's go ahead and take a look. So here we're just reading in the example.csv, creating the start date too, so that it's understandable as a date variable, date type within R. And then if we run unique data and data with the duplicated function operated on data, notice that's in the row position of our indexing, so that we're going to get duplicated rows within our data frame here, just called data. So let's take a look at this. I think this is worth showing within R since it's maybe not so obvious what that output is going to look like. So first, running unique data, we're going to see this output. So this is giving us the unique rows out of our data frame. And so notice it is not the full data frame. In fact, we can see 3 is skipped. What else? That may be it. 14 also is skipped. Then we run duplicated. So what are the 2 that are skipped? Well, we can now see this, 3 and 14. Okay, so this just gives the complement to that set. All right, so another kind of related task when you're managing your data frames within R is using a function to select first entry in a variable. So the idea behind this is that we might need to sort by ID and then say something like our visit date so that the first entry for each patient is that first visit. And so how would we go about matching that ID and then also selecting out that first entry for each patient? So let's go through the code again and make sure we understand what's happening here. Here we're going to take the visit date here and format it as an R date class variable. Then we're going to remove duplicates because there's no sense in having the duplicate if we're going to try to do this matching. In fact, we can't have the duplicates if we're going to do the matching. So what's happening down here? Well, we have the order variable. So remember that gives us the positions of ID sorted with visit date sorted within ID. And so we're going to have our data sorted according to that hierarchical arrangement of visit date sorted within ID. And then we're going to take and then this will ensure that that first visit date is at the top for each patient ID. So we have our patient ID with the lowest value with their first visit date, then all their visit dates following, then we get the second lowest ID with the first visit date for that patient and all those following. Okay, so then let's extract that first visit date for each patient. So if we do unique ID, so that's just going to tell us what are the unique values for ID and match it up with ID and operate that on our sorted version of our data frame for the patient data, and we get first. Let's take a look and make sure that we understand what first is going to look like. But it should be a data frame, or a set of positions, I should say, not a data frame, but a set of positions, so that it just picks out the position where the first visit date corresponds with a unique ID. Okay, so then notice that vector first is here, and that'll just give us for every patient their first visit date. Okay, so first in the code, we're going to remove the duplicates. Notice I'm going to go by that start date that we had included before. It actually is the visit date in the version of examples.csv I'm providing you. Then we're going to sort by RID. So if we take a look at this sorted data frame, we do see that within ID, the date is sorted. So first ID 1, and then we see an earlier date, then a later date. ID 2, an earlier date, then a later date, and so on. Then we're going to get that first vector, and that's just going to give us the positions where we see the very first visit date. So that's the first row, the third row. So notice, because we took out duplicates, we go 1, 2, 4. The third observation actually was a duplicate. And so 3 here refers to the one where it has a 4 here, but it's the third row within our now sorted and unique data frame. Okay, so just be aware of that. That can get a little confusing, and that's actually tripped me up when I'm doing a lot of rearranging of data frames, because sometimes the row name will differ from the actual numeric position within your matrix. So you have to be very careful about that. Oops, I just created first 2 times, but that's okay. Then we get our data frame where it just contains those first visits. So this just has that start date where it's the first value in each.